All right, everybody, welcome back to Open Sports Page. I'm very excited to bring in my next guest. I have the fortunate opportunity of working with this man every single day over at 790 The Ticket locally here in Miami. He is the host of the afternoon show, 3 to 7. You can also see him, of course, all over ESPN, specifically on PTI. The tremendously talented, more importantly, my good friend, Dan Le Batard. Danny, how are you this afternoon, buddy?
Which one's more important, that I'm tremendously talented or that I'm your dear friend?
Well, I would say for the show purposes, talented.
I'm gonna say that your judgment is slightly off on terribly talented or tremendously talented, but your judgment is solid on dear friend.
Okay. My judgment is not off on either. Having the chance to work with you the last couple of years and listening to you on radio, watching you on TV, you are great. Now, let me ask you this. Lots of people watching this right now on Open Sports are big PTI fans. When one of those guys are out, whether it's Michael Wilbon or Tony Kornheiser, you're the first guy to step in. What is a better show, Dan Le Batard and Michael Wilbon, or Dan Le Batard and Tony Kornheiser?
Well, the best was certainly Michael Wilbon and Tony Kornheiser, and anybody who steps in and tries to replace either one of those guys is doomed to fail or pale in comparison. But I would say that if you want lighter and just a little bit more fun with Wilbon, it's that. And if you want angrier and genuine contention with Kornheiser, you're going to get more of that. Not because Tony and I aren't friends, because we're very good friends, but I also genuinely annoy Tony, and I usually do it inside of a couple of minutes. I mean, it's amazing. Like the over-under, before we start taping, the over-under, we go, will it be a minute today or less than a minute? And it's usually less than a minute before I genuinely annoy him on television.
But to your credit, even though you readily admit, Dan, that you're friends with Tony Kornheiser, you are critical of Tony, especially on Monday Night Football. That's fair to say, right?
Well, I try to be honest. I think Kornheiser's great. I think he's great at everything that he does. I think that what he's doing on Monday Night Football is, for whatever the reasons are, the same thing happened to Dennis Miller. He's not himself for whatever the reasons are. I don't know why it's people step into that booth and think it's a cathedral or think they need to be reverential. But I remember last year, Jimmy Kimmel went in there for 5 minutes as a guest, and he started making fun of everybody. And that's what I thought Tony Kornheiser and Dennis Miller were going to do, and they didn't become that. So I think Tony would be very good at that if he were the guy that he was on PTI, but it doesn't feel like he's that on Monday Night Football.
Fair. By the way, Jimmy Kimmel did do that, and he was told he's never invited back.
Because you got that partnership with the NFL, and the whole thing. God, it would be so entertaining if they had somebody in there who was just making fun of things. Like, it doesn't have to be a cathedral. It doesn't have to be this thing that you bow down before, that you genuflect before. And I like the idea of Dennis Miller and Tony Kornheiser in there. But that's what you're saying. I mean, they banned Norm Macdonald from doing the ESPYs too, because he made fun of John Elway's teeth.
Yep, I remember that well. Okay, now let's switch gears here. On Thursday night, while there was baseball playoffs going on, while your friend Dave Wanstead was beating South Florida, I found myself glued to the television for an hour and a half watching the Biden-Palin debate. Even though at this point it's all academic, it would take a miracle for McCain to beat Obama at this point. I still found myself watching it. And I feel bad about saying this, Dan, but when I watch Palin now, all I see is Tina Fey on SNL, and I did not think she afforded herself real well on Thursday night. What are your thoughts on the vice president?
Well, I think what ends up happening here is, and I've seen it happen so many times with my Republican and Democrat friends, that whatever you think going into the debate is what you think going out of the debate. And it doesn't much matter what ends up happening in the debate. It doesn't much matter what any of these people say. I will say the best thing that's come from this entire thing is Tina Fey's appearances as Palin on Saturday Night Live. Because I got to tell you, I am grossed out, Sid, by the way this thing has gone. I mean, none of these candidates make me feel good about where America is going. Not the way they're behaving, the negative ads, the lying on both sides, the rhetoric that's just, all it is the same talk that you always hear. It's always the same stuff. Nobody's saying anything new. It just, and whatever you thought going into the debate, I think, for the most part, is what you think coming out of the debate. And it doesn't even matter. You could watch it with the sound down. Or you could not even watch it, and you're going to have the same idea.
Okay, fair enough. So if you're right about that, Dan, and these four candidates don't do it for you, and a lot of people will end up voting for the lesser of the two evils, I think you're right about that. If it's up to Dan Le Batard, who'd you like to see run for president? Right now, these four are gone. Who's president? I know you like Charles Barkley, but I'm not sure he's ready yet, Dan.
I like Colin Powell a little bit. I don't want to vote for evil. How about no lesser of two evils? How about I just don't vote for evil? That's the way that I want to go. I mean, I'm telling you, Sid. Like I don't think I've ever felt this way before, but I think I'm going to recuse myself from voting. Like I just don't like the way any of these people behave.
Fair enough. Okay, talking about people behaving, you have a very good relationship with T.O., and I've been very adamant about T.O. over the years. I don't like him. I like him off the field. I've been to events, your movie events, and he's a terrific guy. But in that silly little football world where he lives most of his life, I don't like him. And it just seems every time Dallas loses a football game, it goes back to T.O. You know, I didn't get the ball enough. It wasn't the defense or Romo or Barber. I didn't get the ball enough. He's done it again this week. At what point do you say, come on, man, enough's enough?
Well, we're all flawed, and I try not to be that kind of judgmental. I fail all the time, but he is absolutely, I do like him, but he is absolutely a selfish, narcissist diva. He's always been that. He's also a tremendous talent that I would want on my football team every single time, and he's fundamentally incapable of tact. So if you ask him that question, Sid, if you ask him, do you want the ball more? The answer is always going to be yes with him. He doesn't measure consequences. It sounds selfish, of course. Anybody who saw that game and saw that they tried to get it to him a third of the time looks at that after they lose like, what are you doing? What are you talking about? But in sports, you'll find it everywhere. Just after Carlos Zambrano lost last night, he said that. Didn't he say the same thing?
Yeah.
Didn't he say, it's really tough when your teammates let you down like that? Is it true? Is it honesty? Or is it something do we want honesty is my question to you. Because if you put anyone in that spot and you put them up to a lie detector, they're always going to say they want the ball more. But there are only a handful of guys who actually come out and say it. Everyone else hides behind false modesty.
That's fair. Now, we'll let you go with this. What is it about the wide receiver position, though? Whether it's T.O., Chad Johnson, it all started with Keyshawn Johnson. I went to Dan Ball with the New York Football Jets years and years ago. Why does it seem like all these quote-unquote divas all play the wideout position?
My theory would be that it's an isolated position. You're running sprints all game. You're by yourself. You make the big plays. You're a guy who requires attention. You want attention, and it's one of these things. It's an interesting thing because all of these guys are in face masks. This league tries to scrub out stardom, doesn't want individual personalities outside of the quarterback position. And the receivers who do this, Sid, they get what they want. They get the attention. Do you know any other receivers on 0-4 football teams who aren't doing anything this year who are all over television every day? Do you know? And how does that happen? Chad Johnson is being rewarded for the behavior. Whether you like the behavior or not, he is absolutely being rewarded for it because all he wants is attention.
Fair enough. By the way, he's not a heck of a lot different than I am.
Yeah, you would be. What would we call you in Spanish instead of ocho cinco?
You tell me. I don't speak Spanish. What would they call me, Dan?
Well, I was going to go somewhere Jewish, but I'm afraid of it. I don't want to do that. El tremendo. You want to put that on the tremendous Jew? Is that okay? Am I allowed to say that?
That works great, man. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's very nice. Thank you. Well, there he is, Dan Le Batard. And, of course, you can catch him every single day from 3 to 7 on 790 The Ticket down in Miami. And, of course, does a spectacular job on ESPN, PTI, Sports Reporters, all those shows as well. And like I said earlier, he is, I'm proud to say he's my friend. Danny, thank you so much, man.
Sid, thanks for having me on. Anytime, buddy.
You got it. Dan Le Batard here on Open Sports Page. We'll take a short break. When we get back, Amber and I, of course, we'll talk about what's burning up the back pages back here on Open Sports Page right after this.
So you think you can tackle a pro? There's only one way to find out. Click on fantasy at opensports.com.